I broke up with my girlfriend of 5 years because she wouldn't let go of her ex. I really need some advice. And I know a lot of people are still friends with their exes, but my situation is a lot more complicated than that. My girlfriend and I were together for 5 years. During that time, she broke up with me twice. Each time, she came back later apologizing, saying she made a mistake, and we got back together. But each breakup was somehow connected to her ex, and it always circled back to that same issue: boundaries and communication. The final time she broke up with me was in December 2024. Then in 2025, she reached out to me 3 different times. I ignored her at first, but by June 2025, I decided to give it another chance. At first, things were really good. She had been in therapy, was more emotionally available, and even acknowledged some of the things she hadn't before. She validated my concerns, really made an effort, and I truly thought this could finally work. But then came the one thing I asked for from the start. I told her I couldn't continue if her ex was still in the picture. Let me explain that part. This ex isn't just some ex. They dated briefly a few months before I met her, and their relationship ended due to long distance. But it didn't exactly end cleanly. In fact, they were still sort of seeing each other on and off right before she and I got together in May 2020. I later found out that their last kiss was literally in April 2020, just a few weeks before she and I started dating. Right after we began our relationship, she and her ex stayed friends. At first, it was just group hangouts with mutual friends. Then it turned into one-on-one hangouts. Then I started noticing red flags. The ex would make sad playlists about my girlfriend and their breakup, even though we were now in a relationship. In late 2023, I found a note from December 2026, months into my relationship with her, that her ex had written saying, "You are my soulmate." It felt like I was in a relationship with someone who was emotionally still tied to someone else. I expressed my discomfort over and over again. But she kept saying they were just friends. Now, I get it. I was young then. I was 18, figuring out relationships and boundaries for the first time. But even then, it felt off. I knew it wasn't okay. Things really hit a breaking point in 2023. Her ex had graduated college and moved back home. That meant they could now hang out all the time. And they did. All of 2023 and most of 2024, they hung out 3 to 4 days a week, sometimes even stayed over at each other's houses. My girlfriend would sleep at her ex's place, and I wasn't even invited or included in most of these hangouts. She'd just say, "I'm allowed to have my own friends." And yeah, she is allowed to have her own friends. But let's be honest, this wasn't just a friend. This was a person she had history with, someone who openly wasn't over her, someone who constantly crossed emotional boundaries, and someone who still seemed to have a hold on her. It got to a point where just hearing the ex's name would make my body shake and my chest feel tight. I would cry just thinking about it, but I felt so stuck. It felt like my only options were to lose her or just put up with it. And I chose to put up with it, way longer than I should have. I'll admit that, I should have had more self-respect, but I loved her, and I kept hoping she'd finally choose me. So fast forward to June 2025. We're trying again, and this time I tell her clearly, I can't do this if the ex is still in her life. I'm not trying to control her, but I am protecting myself. It wasn't about jealousy, it was about emotional safety and respect. I'd spent 5 years begging for boundaries, and nothing had changed. I couldn't go through that again. She told me she understood. She said she stopped talking to her ex the moment she reached out to me and that she was serious about us. For a few days, I believed her. But then she started slipping. Not even a week later, she started saying she missed the friendship and wanted to find a way to make it work. She kept saying things like, "It won't be like before. We'll just be regular friends, not best friends. We won't hang out all the time, just once in a while." But how was I supposed to believe that? They had 5 years to get boundaries right, and they didn't. Every single boundary I tried to set before was ignored. And now she was asking me to trust her again. I felt like she was negotiating with my pain. Like she was trying to find the bare minimum she could offer while still keeping her ex around. I told her it wasn't okay. I told her this was a deal breaker. And her response. She said, "I'm trying to show you I've changed. But if you can't handle it, I understand." That felt like a slap in the face. Like she was saying I was the one who couldn't handle it, Not that she was choosing someone who had been a constant wedge between us for years. She kept saying she wants to prove she can balance it all, but the truth is, she was willing to watch me walk away just to keep her ex in her life. And so, I walked away. I broke up with her. And it hurts so bad. But I couldn't keep letting myself be second choice. I couldn't keep hoping that one day she'd finally put me first. Because she had so many chances. And she didn't. She keeps framing it like she's grown and changed, and that I'm not giving her a chance to prove it. But growth isn't real if it still hurts the same people in the same ways. And no, I'm not crazy for walking away from something that made me feel small, unimportant, and disrespected. I still love her, a lot, but loving her doesn't mean I have to tolerate being hurt over and over again. And I'm finally realizing that choosing myself isn't selfish. It's survival. PLZ, like and subscribe.